In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, let's break it. Damn! Unstoppable. Not on my watch.
Freeze! Don't move! Ever get that feeling of deja vu? Winky face.
Hello, you're listening to A Hero's Welcome, episode 34. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Wes. I'm here, as always, with Andrew. So how's Overwatch treating you, Andrew?
It's been really good. I've been having a lot of fun. This last week's, it's been a good week for me with Overwatch. I've been getting a lot of games in, playing some competitive, a lot of Soldier, a lot of Zarya, having a lot of fun, and
Nice.
been ranking up, so it's been good.
Yeah, man, I still haven't had much time to play at all, but I know, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, the year's coming to an end. The holiday season's kind of crazy, and that affects, my work quite a bit, but definitely looking forward to getting in, doing a ton of games. Obviously, we have the Winter Wonderland season event going on, so a bunch of new stuff to get there. I'm sure we'll be talking about that. But yeah, pretty exciting. The meta, maybe not so exciting. How you like the meta right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of back to the whole tank meta, and, we've talked about it several times. Not crazy about the tank meta myself. I prefer skill play over the whole tank meta, but hopefully we'll see the light at the end of that tunnel as well pretty soon. But we'll be talking a lot about that as well.
Yeah, but I mean, they're giving you more tanks with that tank meta than we're even used to, We're talking like 4.
I know, we're seeing 4 tanks and 2 healers, it's been pretty crazy. But thankfully, at least I haven't had to deal too much with it where I'm at right now. Like I said, I know we talked about it previously with Season 3, everybody kind of starting off a lot lower than their skill actually is. But I started off pretty low, and I've been ranking up quite a bit. So I moved quite a bit, so I'm getting to where I want to be, so hopefully I won't run into too much of that, but
nice.
Yeah,
man. Before we get into news, just a interesting thing I came across. According to Google, Overwatch is actually the 3rd most popular game. I'm assuming they're taking their search results and all the entities that they own to determine that, but that's pretty significant. The game's not even a year old.
Yeah, no, there's quite a bit of, generation, a lot of stuff going around Overwatch. I mean, granted, we don't have huge expansions here and there, but we've been having steady patches and things getting changed here and there. And there's still a lot of people looking at the game, trying the game out for the first time. And so there's still a lot of buzz circling around this game, which is cool to see.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start with the news, right? So patch 1.6 came out just a few days ago. Winter Wonderland season event. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably already hopped in. If not, go ahead and do that. You'll get a free loot crate right away. It'll be a little bit different looking, right? It looks like a present.
Yeah, wrapped like a Christmas present. They look pretty cool. I was lucky enough, the very first one I logged in and I already got the Farah skin, I believe. So I have that one, and I even have, what other one did I get? Oh, the Reaper one as well, which is kind of cool. So the 2 ones that I think I like the best probably I got already, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think those are probably one of the best for sure.
And the funny thing is, I don't even play Farah at all hardly, but I do play a lot of Reaper, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a whole new seasonal event. Of course, there's always tons of cosmetics. Holiday themed cosmetics is over 100 new cosmetics out that you can try and pick up. You can also purchase them, so you can earn them or purchase them. And of course, as usual, every loot box comes with at least 1 new item for the next about 3 weeks. This will be going on.
Yep, about 3 weeks, and you got lucky. The very first crate, you got the free one, right? You got a nice skin.
Yeah, I got the Farah one, the first one. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Lucky, man. So yeah, and all Hanamura and King's Row, they're gonna be all decked out right in holiday lights. I think they're like snowy as well.
Yeah, right. They've got some snow on the ground and all over the place, and they got holiday lights going on. They're all decked out. So it's kind of cool, being that, King's Row and Hanamura have kind of been with us, from the beginning, and they're kind of, the bread and butter maps that everybody knows. So it's kind of cool that they kind of mixed them up a little bit and kind of, changed the look of them a little bit.
Yeah, so we're talking, over 100 new rewards, different things we could collect right through loot crates. They're all holiday themed. So, I mean, what are your favorites? There's one really, I think my favorite is the May when she builds a snowman. Do you want to build a snowman, right?
Oh, yeah, that is a really good one, yeah. Yeah, I haven't been lucky enough to get that one yet, but hoping I will, yeah. That's kind of cool.
That's an emote, right?
That is, yes. So that is kind of cool. I've seen a lot of people putting it up. You can build a little snowman and all that cool stuff. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I do, every once in a while, I get on a little bit of May, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so it's not just skins, obviously, sprays, some voice lines, and obviously the cinematics at the end. A little bit of everything. You know, some characters got a lot more than others, but I mean that's what you would expect. You know, throughout the year.
Yeah,
you know, your favorite
they gotta
hero
mix
should get
it up.
something.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, even Zenyatta got some cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's cool stuff all over the place as usual. You know, Blizzard does a pretty good job with the cosmetic stuff. So,
Yeah, Zenyatta looks the most unique, I think. You know, the Nutcracker. He's got the nuts where he's throwing at
I feel
people.
like he's one of the ones that he always tends to get the unique stuff, right? I mean, like even his golden weapons are kind of cool. They're very different from everybody else. I mean, it seems obvious, you know, the golden orbs that he throws, but it's highly different from everybody else. So I think it's kind of cool. So he's always kind of that outlier. He gets a lot of weird stuff, being, you know, what he is.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty happy. I mean, you're pretty happy with the new loot.
Yeah, the loot is actually really good. I'm really happy with that. You know, we've had a couple other holiday events. We had the you know, the Halloween event, which was really cool. Of course, I love that one. I think that's probably still my favorite. We're going to be talking about the May Snowball Offensive, which is the new you know, arcade event that they added for the holiday season. And I mean, it's cool. It's interesting to get in there and kind of play it, but I still think Halloween is my favorite so far.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's hard to compete with the Junkenstein's Revenge event, right? I mean, the May Snowball Offensive, you know, more what we're accustomed to. It's PvP, right? I know a lot of people really like the PvE content and looking forward to more PvE content. And Blizzard, you know, they took that advice and they said that they're going to be introducing more of that in the future. So, you know, we don't really know what that means, you know, next, you know, seasonal event or next year, next 3 years, you know, we don't really know. Sometimes
Exactly, and it's one of those things where, you know, you can't expect every holiday season has its own special, you know, kind of theme that goes along with it. Of course, you know, Christmas holiday season has kind of got a really cheery, lighthearted kind of thing going on. So, I mean, everything has to fit. You can't just force something in there that doesn't fit. So, you know, I understand why they did the Snowball thing, and it works out great. It's a fine thing. It's arcade, you know, kind of get in there and play, have a little fun here and there. But I just think the holiday one for Halloween it hit so pitch perfect. They did such an amazing job on it, and it's just obvious. It's one of the favorites.
Yeah, so let's talk about May's Snowball Offensive, right? So it's a 6v6 single elimination. So the only character you can play is May. You're on the map that's in Antarctica, right?
Yeah, the Antarctica map that they just introduced for her for like the 1v1 situation.
Yeah,
and so it's a 6v6 May versus Maze. Obviously, you know, her primary ability no longer does the you know, freezing. It just shoots snowballs. You only have one ammo. It's single fire. As soon as you spend that ammo, then you have to find a little pile of snow and use the alternate fire, and it will channel it and it will reload your snowball. So you get pretty vulnerable once you fire that first snowball. Once you're out of ammo, basically all you have after that is your E for your ice wall and your shift for your cryo freeze to kind of protect yourself from other players.
Yeah, and they also changed the ultimate so you could fire continuously without reloading. And I know there's some achievements. I think it's an achievement for, you know, getting 4 picks within 1 life.
There's also achievement for, I think it's 3 shooting 3 people while they're reloading, which is another one that I believe I've seen. So there's a few little achievements you can get from that. And like I said, it's a cool little thing to jump in. You know, I've tried it a few times. It's fun. It's not really something that I'm super crazy about, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that love it out there.
Yeah, when I was checking it out, you know, we know the popularity because it shows us in game, you know, so it was like somewhere in the middle, right? So there's definitely people queuing up for it. Definitely people there playing, and I think it's cool. It's interesting. You know, some people are gonna hate it. Some people are gonna love it. Like, it's just an optional thing on the side. You know, I mean, if you don't like it,
it's
just
not something
play
that.
else, right?
Exactly. It's not something that they have to do. It's just something that they want to do. It's a little thing that Blizzard's kind of always done, little seasonal events here and there. I mean, they even did it with the Lucio Ball thing, which, you know, same kind of thing. A lot of people loved it. Some people hated it. It was what it was.
Yeah, so, I mean, how dare Blizzard make something that I personally do not enjoy, right? And other people enjoy it, right?
Exactly, yeah. They just need to know, right? They need to be able to walk that line and just constantly make content that we all like. But anyways, let's get into kind of the meat of the show today. So, I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of hero balance. We talked about Symmetra. We've talked about it in the past. They've had some changes to Symmetra. They didn't like where she was, but it is now finally off the PTR, and that is actually in live right now.
Yeah, so we've talked about Symmetra. We've talked about Blizzard talking about changing her in the past. So we don't have to, go over all of her abilities and break it all down, but pretty much most of you probably already know. She has a new ability, Photon Shield. Interesting little thing about that is, there's no recorded voice lines yet of all the characters, right? Because with the teleporter, we're accustomed of hearing that, oh, there's a teleporter there, or we need to take care of that teleporter, right? The characters in game kind of let your team know that the opposing team has a teleporter. So right now, that doesn't exist for the Photon Shield. So interesting that Blizzard did come out and say, there isn't voice lines yet for all the characters, because you need all the characters, right? You can't just do some to do that. So
Right, exactly. So the shield generator, her other ultimates, you will hear them here and there from some characters, but it's not there for all of the characters as well. So they changed that, the optional different ultimate, which is really cool. I think they did a great job with that, as well as her primary photon projector. They increased the range, which I think is really good, from about 5 meters to 7 meters, which definitely makes her more of a threat and makes her a much more well-rounded character, with the addition of, like you said, the photon shield that she puts out. Instead of giving people the shields like she used to with her E ability, it's a much more active role. She's using her photon barrier to actually project a shield in front of her team, and she can also be an offensive type character as well.
Yeah, and I meant shield generator, by the way, the ultimate, not the I think I might have
right,
said
exactly.
the photon shield.
Generator.
Yeah, her ultimate. Yeah, her ultimate, right? So that she has new ultimate, right? Shield generator, places the device. It goes through a line of sight and everything, and everyone gets a bunch of shields, much more potent than the shields she used to give. So
yeah, and it's much more beneficial in most situations, I think, than the teleporter. The teleporter is still really good in some situations at first point defense and things like that. They did, of course, change the health of the teleporter. So instead of having just a straight up 200 health, they actually have reduced the health to about 50, but they've actually added 350 to shield. So they have quite a bit more resolve for the teleporter. As long as you can kind of defend it, you can keep it up in a lot more useful situations.
Yeah, so I mean, effectively double the amount of health pool, and the vast majority of that is a shield, which is going to regenerate. So you can't just pick it off little by little by little. You're actually going to have to focus, whether that be the teleporter or the shield generator. And yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe once the tank meta kind of comes and goes, maybe we could see some Symmetra play. Definitely interested to see. I'm not sure if it's enough, but obviously the major gripe with her is her ultimate pretty much was only useful in very limited circumstances. So now she's playable no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're on point A or point B, or if you're on the King of the Hill map or what have you. She should be contributing a lot more, not determinant on where you are in the game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is, she's may not be the strongest hero in every situation, and there's plenty of other heroes that aren't. McCree's kind of fallen a little bit out of the meta, but of course, if you're really good at McCree, you can make it work, Same kind of thing. So hopefully, like you said, once the tank meta slows down, we will see a lot more of Symmetra as well. And it's one of those things where I see, when I started out in the lower rankings, I saw a lot more Symmetra play. Because a lot of teams have trouble focusing down the teleporter. Even though there's plenty of audio cues telling you that they have a teleporter, people aren't really good at seeking them out and focusing them down. And if the team can defend it, it's very, very beneficial for them. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it just depends on the situation, how you're using it. But yeah, hopefully we'll see a lot more of Symmetra in the future.
Yeah, and obviously whenever you have a complete rework, I mean, she got changed quite a bit. You're obviously going to see more people interested in that character and be playing her more just because she got changed. So definitely seeing more of her, but I don't know if she'll make it into the pro scene. Are we going to be able to watch these future esports tournaments and see a lot of Symmetra play? I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out.
Yeah, I think it's very much like May. I think we'll see some things here and there. I mean, May has kind of come more to the forefront now, I think, depending on, the way things play out. But I definitely think like we could see a few good plays with her, depending on the team composition. But yeah, again, I don't think she's going to make it into the main meta of pro play, that's for sure.
Yeah, and real quick, just some general stuff with the new patch. They did add the Boop unlockable voice line for Sombra. I think we mentioned that was coming in the past. I think there was, we talked about how there was a big petition to add that, and Blizzard was like, yeah, we could do that. Sure. We don't have to remove anything. We'll just add it.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. Blizzard did such a great job with that. People came out and showed their interest in it. When they made the animated short for Sombra, her origin story, it was a big part of that origin story, and a lot of people loved it. And Blizzard kind of didn't really see that, in the beginning. And then as soon as they petitioned and kind of did that, Blizzard kind of came out and said, yeah, sure, no problem. They turned around, they just did it really quickly and added it in. So I think it's great that they do things like that, and it's definitely cool that they're paying attention.
Yeah, and the next thing is pretty similar, right? So they added the 1v1 mystery duel and 3v3 elimination in the custom games. I did see some people asking for that. But so pretty much, when you make a custom game, you'll have the option to do the mystery duel or the 3v3 elimination. So which is nice, especially if you have game night and your friends are over and you want to take advantage of these interesting rule sets. It just makes it much easier. And I'm sure it's really good for streamers that they could play with their viewers and stuff like that as well. So just community event stuff. It's good to have that, and I'm sure the future custom settings will also be considered for custom games as well.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. They're just, like I said, they're paying attention. They're doing little things here and there that they can fit into the game where they can. And I think it's just great. It just shows how much they're paying attention to the players. So, great thing. They also added the Stay as a Team feature. We talked about that previously. Was in beta, in the PTR, I mean. And they added that onto live now, finally. It's one of the things that I've not really seen a great amount of use out of it yet. But, it's a small feature. If people use it, great. If they don't, it's whatever.
Yeah, we've talked about voice lines in the past. It's just kind of interesting to see it evolve and people kind of embracing it. But, before the game even came out, they had a lot of voice lines, and what they were seeing, what Blizzard was seeing internally was not that many people were using them. So I think the route they took then was, okay, we'll, have less options, take away all the variety and just have some of the core ones. But I think what's happening is people are starting to understand the game, and they know that this kind of thing exists, especially for people who aren't on the voice, I suppose. But even people who are on voice, they're still using these voice line features, and I think people are starting to adopt them, and they're getting familiar using them. So now they're asking, "Oh, can we have more? Can I have? I'm trying to heal you, but you're running away." Voice line, or something like that. So it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure we'll see more of it in the future. It's a great job so far. So just little general stuff that was added to the patch as well. We also had some slight changes to Zarya, which they talked about in the previous patches. But basically, I thought it warranted a separate note. It's more of like a bug fix, but it was one of the things that was very usable, and a lot of people were kind of exploiting it. Not exploiting it, but they knew it existed, and it was one of those little tips and trick things, kind of like the Widowmaker scoping animation. So her particle barrier, as well as her projected barrier, attacks like Reinhardt's Fire Strike and Hanzo's Dragon Strike that would deal damage to the shield and then continue and deal damage to the hero are no longer going to hit the barrier twice. Thus, they provide way less charge for her weapon.
Yeah, so anyone who plays Zarya knows this exists, and people playing against Zarya should also know this. But yeah, so whenever you saw the Reinhardt Fire Strike, it was like 100%, full energy from your shield, whether it be on you or a friendly. So you're always looking for that Reinhardt, and you intentionally put yourself right in front of his Fire Strike, and you got some easy charge. But since then, they've tuned Zarya down a little bit on how much power she's getting from her shields. Obviously, she's still extremely well and has a very high pick rate in the meta and pro scene. So, she's doing fine. But, yeah, so they fixed that. So, good on them.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I actually just had a match the other day that I was playing Zarya. It was really interesting because, like I said, I've been playing a lot of Soldier, and I've been having a lot of fun and a lot of luck playing Soldier. So I've pretty much just been playing Soldier. and I kind of got forced into playing a tank, and so I ended up playing Zarya. And it was really funny because I just got the golden weapon with her, so it's kind of funny that like I was telling people I didn't really want to play tank, and then I finally switched and I pull out Zarya with like the golden weapon, and we just pretty much destroyed the team. It was really funny. I had like 100% charge the entire game, and I just literally I left the payload behind, and I was just killing people the whole time. It was awesome. Play the game, most damage, most eliminations, everything. It was fun.
Yeah, that's for a few seasons now. Zarya has been one of the best, especially if you're solo queuing. If you want to win, pretty good. Carry or very strong carry.
She has great output because not only does she do really good damage, she has good sustainability with her shield. She has good sustainability to help her teammates because she can apply her projected barriers on them and save people's lives so many times. And she's just a well-rounded tank. And she acts like a DPS character as a tank with a lot of health. So she does really well. And there's just so much to her. And it's funny, I've said it before, but she was one of the heroes that I started off saying she's probably one that I like the least. And now she's probably my favorite tank, I would have to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got the golden weapon on her. That was your very first one, so that says something.
Exactly.
But she is. She does more damage than most DPS classes with energy. So maybe that's broken. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. But she's pretty much an assassin with way more health than all the other assassins. Yep.
Yeah, she definitely. She did get a little bit of tuning. She could probably get a little bit more tuning as far as how much uptime she has on the energy. I think maybe it could burn a little bit faster, and you'd have to constantly keep it up a little bit more. Because that's really the thing with her is when I started out playing her, if you don't understand exactly how you should be using your barriers, you don't get a lot of charge, and then you sit at low charge, and then your damage is just not very good. So
let's talk a little bit about the Overwatch League. Obviously, there's still a lot of speculation going around about Overwatch League and exactly how it's going to roll out. But it seems that the Overwatch teams will be keeping their rosters just based on what we're seeing the pro teams doing, and some rumors spreading around. But pretty much, some people were speculating that teams would actually be dropping their rosters into some like big shared pool. Then there'd be like a big draft, after the combines. The combines would have, rookies.
Right, so similar to other sports, they would all be like free agents again, and then they would go through a draft is kind of what was speculated before. So it's still early, we don't have any clear-cut knowledge of what is going to happen, but it just looks like from what we're seeing and what we're hearing that won't be the case, which I think, in my opinion, is good. I like where things are at right now. I like the teams, and I don't think they should be dropping their rosters.
Yeah, and remember at BlizzCon they did have, meetings and discussions with not only just the orgs, the big organizations that are already in the space of esports, but, prospective, investors from all different types of backgrounds, right? So it's just interesting to see, is it too late for those investors to come in because, the teams or the players are going to be pretty much rookies, right? I mean, if you're going to be able to keep those, the current teams. But it is interesting to also note that there are rumors of an upcoming auction for home cities, so that's interesting. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, similar to other sports as well. Again, we have teams that represent home cities and such, and it's something that Blizzard's talked about in the past with the Overwatch League news first starting out. So we are hearing rumors of that up and coming of the auctions. So it's definitely getting closer and closer to the time, and looking forward to what's going to happen with that for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking, January, we'll know a lot more, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking the beginning of the year, once, Blizzard kind of gets back into, work as usual, we will be hearing a lot more from them because, again, it is the holiday season. So I'm sure a lot of them are spending time with families. They're not, at work anymore and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and we knew from the beginning when the announcement that there was going to be, centralized teams around the major cities. We're familiar with that in traditional sports, right? So just, exactly how they're going to go about doing that. It just seems like, the Overwatch teams will be keeping their rosters right now, so your favorite teams, whoever they may be, most likely will be keeping those rosters. And we see them really, picking up rosters. We'll talk about some new organizations coming in and getting some free agents already. I think, that activity does lend more to they're going to be able to keep their rosters. And Yeah, man, try to get a good city. I don't know. I'm sure there's some preferences, some major cities. I mean, we live, kind of in LA area, so we should have a team pretty close. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, we're pretty lucky to be at least where we are. Even in traditional sports, we have pretty solid teams in our area as well. So I don't expect it will be any difference with esports.
Yeah. So did you want to talk a little bit about should there be like a true initial draft, right? So what do you think? I mean, it's pretty much two routes, right? You take the huge player base, or the pro players now. You throw them in a big pool. And then you have the people who came in through the combines, right, that proved themselves there. And then you have the investors and orgs kind of pick their teams. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that go along with that that we'd have to kind of iron out. But as far as other situations, with like even traditional sports where they have initial drafts, there's seeding for those drafts, which would have to happen as well, right? Because you got to find out who's going to pick first, who's going to pick second. And the thing with that is I mean, you have, teams like Cloud9 and Liquid and, NRG and FaZe who have been around. And so those are the big teams and the well-known teams. And, I would assume they would be getting the early seeding anyway, just because of the way things would work. And so, the rosters definitely might be different, but the argument against having the draft would be, to keep the rosters the same and keep the teams the way they are and recognizable with the rosters that they have. And the argument for having the initial draft would be basically so that everybody could have a fair chance at all of the roster and have, building themselves a great team. But ultimately, the seeding kind of determines that. Obviously, if you're a popular team and you get high seeding, then obviously going to have the better players on your team. So it would kind of work out the same, I feel like. So I feel like having the draft is not really necessary.
So if you were an investor or thought about investing and you aren't going to be able to get these people who've been playing for a while, right? These pros are already on teams, right? I mean, would that deter you if you're an investor, knowing that the vast majority of your roster is probably going to be rookies and they're going to be competing against people who have already been playing? I mean, since early beta, right? I mean, does that deter you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely arguments for that, definitely, and I definitely see what you're talking about. But as far as that goes, I mean, there's plenty of players still out there, and the thing with esports that is a little bit different from traditional sports is that there's always constantly new people coming in, and I mean that's normal with other sports, but it's such an open environment and it's such an easy thing for a lot of players to be able to put in time. There's not a lot of money invested to becoming a good esports player and that kind of thing. So there's plenty of good players out there that could build a really good roster. We're talking about plenty of other ones that are up and coming and picking up new rosters. And, as the team plays and progresses and competes in tournaments, they get better and they build it. Ultimately building a roster comes down to roles, who fits the roles and coming together as a team and getting better as a team. And of course, as time goes on, then you have trades and rosters change. We've already seen plenty of roster changing over the little bit of time that Overwatch has been around. So I could definitely see some of it being a little bit of a deterrent, but not big enough to warrant doing a whole draft.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, I'm for keeping the current rosters. I think the players would prefer that. I think the fans of the teams currently would like to see their players continue to play with their teammates and everything. So I'm definitely for keeping the rosters, but it's just an interesting little argument there. But definitely,
it's definitely a good point to bring up, and I think it definitely warrants thought. But I think ultimately, I think even Blizzard as a whole and esports in general, they risk upsetting the fans that they already have and confusing them with roster changes. I mean, you look at even traditional sports, and anytime there's major trades or coaches change positions, stuff, people end up switching teams or they're confused about who's their team anymore, and so they don't want to upset that, definitely.
Yeah. So real quick before we get competitive, last news: Blizzard ban hammer strikes again, right? So this is going to be in the Chinese realm. So pretty much another ban wave went out, and as we've seen in the past, they actually shared the blacklist of players, of the banned players on the Chinese forum. They just list out the battle tags of all the cheaters. It's pretty amazing.
And I can't say enough how much I enjoy this, because not only is it awesome that they're continuing to keep strong on their bans and keep making sure that they're hammering home this idea that they're not going to accept cheating in the game. It's awesome that then they, on top of that, they shame these people and they put them on this list for others to see, and as a deterrent. I think it's such an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speculating that they probably have more cheaters on the Chinese servers, but I think that they should do this in all the realm, all the different spaces, right? The shaming pretty much of the players. They should blacklist all the regions, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not something that we put in the news, but I've even seen recently players coming out on forum boards and such talking about how they got banned after, only one time of using a cheat. Like aimbot or whatever. Oh, I only installed it one time or whatever, and I got banned for life and stuff. And it's ridiculous that people would even try to argue that point. You obviously knew that you were cheating. You downloaded in a patch or a cheat or whatever, and you used it willingly, and you knew the rules when you did it, and there's no excuse. So yeah, I definitely think they need to do this across the board. We've seen it, like we said, in the past, but yeah, we've seen a lot more of it in the Chinese realm as well.
Yeah, and for some more giggles, a lot of the Reddit users were translating the account names to English. So I just picked three.
Oh yeah, we gotta have a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I just picked the three that I liked. There's a battle tag called "Please kill my teammates first." Another one. This ain't cheat. This is skill. Right. And probably my favorite. Play Junkrat in comp and your whole family dies.
That is awesome. Yes, I definitely. It's always fun to see the names that they put. Especially, I feel like the cheaters, they know that going into it. It's funny, but yes, get to have a little bit of laugh. I'm sure we will put that in the link for you guys. You can have a laugh and go over there and check out all the funny names.
Yeah, I mean, with
these people.
With the Chinese characters, I guess you're able to put a lot more characters than we're used to, because I don't think that would fit in my battle tag. It's like a whole sentence.
No, it definitely wouldn't. Exactly. Yeah, the Chinese characters allow you to say a lot more, so it's always cool.
Yes, let's talk about competitive, because quite a bit of things are happening competitive, actually, despite being the very end of the year, and you would think it'd be kind of quiet, but quite a bit of things. Obviously, MLG Vegas was the biggest event, right? It was December 17th to 18th, just past us. Were you able to catch those games?
Yeah, so I caught a few of the games. I mean, it was a really strong tournament. I feel like, it was pretty much strictly NA, but of course we had all the powerhouse teams there. We had Rise Nation, Envy, Fnatic, and some really good games going on. So, you had two groups going on, Group A and Group B, and then those teams were whittled down into the playoff finals. So, we had, Fnatic coming out of Group A, basically beating out Rise Nation and Fnatic, as well as Complexity. Then we had, Cloud9 coming out of Group B, taking on NRG and FaZe. Actually lost to FaZe first round, and then they came back, took out NRG in the lower bracket, and they came out of that. So we had, in the finals, we had MB versus Cloud9, MB taking that one 3-0, and then FaZe and Fnatic duking it out 3-2, FaZe taking that one, and in the finals, Envy taking it 4-0 to FaZe. Quite a good stretch there for 4-0. They did really well against FaZe. FaZe is a strong team, but Envy taking the whole thing.
Yeah, so I think, a lot of people were expecting Cloud9 to come in second, and a lot of people were expecting Envious to come in first, which they did. But it's congrats, to Envious and FaZe, being able to get that second spot. It was a pretty big event. A lot of the players seemed to really enjoy themselves. They are in Vegas, Sin City. I'm sure there's plenty of things to do there. A lot of temptation down there. But, just seeing them all tweet about their days. And it definitely seems like they had a great time there. And everything was great, besides, all the tanks.
Yeah, a little too much on the tanks, but we were expecting Cloud9 to come in second, and unfortunately the way it worked out, they ended up facing Envy round 1 in the playoffs, so getting knocked out early there. I think they definitely would have had a good matchup versus Fnatic. So yeah, I mean,
I think the NA scene is pretty good, pretty healthy. I think despite the game being out a good amount of time, I think there's still room for all the teams to improve, and that's always good to see. You don't like to see the teams kind of cap out on progression.
Yeah, we don't want to see them get stagnant, definitely. So it's always good to see people growing. Even Cloud9, as of recently, making some roster changes and changing quite a bit. Even when we thought they were already pretty strong, I didn't think they could get any stronger.
Yeah, overall great event. I'm sure there's plenty of odds you can catch all those matches. I'm sure the FaZe versus Fnatic in the finals was a great match, and the finals Envy FaZe. Definitely check them out. And let's talk a little bit about the Overwatch Winter Premiere. We mentioned in the past, $100,000 tournament. We will put a link to the Twitch stream. It's just Overwatch_NG. The next stream is going to be January 3rd, right? So the group phase. There's going to be a couple group phases. So the first group phase, there's 2 different dates, January 3 to 5 and January 10 to 12. It's going to be a round robin. So they're going to be going from 8 teams down to 6. And
then we have group phase 2, which is going to be January 17th to the 19th, and that will be then those 6 teams going down to 4 to meet in the finals in January.
Yeah, so the last 4 teams, it will be a LAN tournament. We don't know. I'm not sure where it is. They have said it's going to be in January, so the end of January, and it is to be determined, actually when and where, but it should be LAN, and those are great tournaments. And we'll be talking a little bit more about teams that were competing in that in a little bit. But definitely probably the next big tournament to look forward to on the horizon, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. $100,000 prize pool. It's set to be a LAN tournament, which is always great. It's always just good to see the teams meet in a LAN setting and see how they do, because a lot of these teams are so used to being online and not live in a LAN setting. So it always kind of shakes things up a little bit. Definitely looking forward to that, and we will keep you posted on what's to come with that.
All right, so let's talk about Counterlogic Gaming, CLG. A lot of people are familiar with this organization outside of Overwatch, but during the MLG Vegas, actually on Friday night, the CEO, Devin Nash, came out and unveiled that, they are going to be acquiring an Overwatch team, so you probably know them as the 1%, formerly known as 1%. They are actually going to be under the CLG banner now.
Right, so a pretty big organization. Anybody that knows esports, I'm sure, has come across Counterlogic Gaming before, and they did finally sign the team, the 1%. So I'm sure some of you guys are, know that team as well. They got pretty popular, some under well-known characters, not big like Cloud9 or anything like that. But we do have Miso. I'm sure plenty of people have heard of Miso. He's kind of a flex tank player, really cool guy. Check him out. You can probably know him from the front page of Reddit. Yeah,
I believe it was season 2. He did hit rank 1, and there's a Reddit post where he calls his mom when he reached rank 1 on the ladder. So you might know him from there. But yeah, so pretty much the players, a lot of them are students full time. A lot of them, have full time jobs, but they are able to still compete at the higher tier Overwatch, which is great. And there isn't that many more free teams out there, so the 1% being one of the last few great ones. And it's that time where we're talking about the Overwatch League. Probably next month or so we'll be learning a lot more about it. And I think what we're seeing is people acquiring these free agents now when they can, because I don't think they're going to be free for very long.
Right, exactly. So we're seeing a lot of, organizations and teams of the such that are kind of straddling the fence and wondering, hey, are they going to jump into this whole Overwatch scene? Are they going to do this or not? And they got to kind of make a decision now before more happens with the E-League. So definitely seeing some people jumping on at the last second here.
But yeah, definitely a solid team. The 1%, I think, CLG is going to love the players. They're all very genuine guys, very good players, and looking forward to seeing if they could actually get some, really good showings in the future. But let's talk about, what I would say is probably the other great free agent, Kungarna. Right there, I think they're rated like 10 or 11th place NA. But they're another, one of the best free agent teams out there, right? They're not signed to a major esport team yet. And, you saw them in the Winter Premiere. If you watched that, they actually took the 2nd place in the first qualifier for the Winter Premiere we were talking about earlier. Pretty good team. And they were recently in the news, actually, the PvP Live. Most people know them. They do a lot of esport coverage, right? PvP Night, they had a video and a news blog, right? So they're saying, Team Solo Mid, which we've talked about in the past, right? So they're saying that they're re-entering the Overwatch scene by signing, right, Team Kungarna, and it was pretty interesting. What do you think about it?
Right. So I caught this article on the tail end. So again, mentioning both these teams are NA, both CLG and Kungarna. They're both really great free agent teams, of course. Like we said, CLG picking up the 1%. But the article as far as Kungarna. So, we talked about Team Solomid in the past. They were previously in Overwatch, and they actually did end up getting rid of a few players. I believe it's due to complexity for, some other reasons. They had, allegations of cheating and whatnot, and they kind of dropped out of that position. So the article was basically stating that they were jumping back in to Overwatch by signing Kungarna, and then we come to find out not too long it was updated that this information supposedly is reported as completely false and none of it is true. So not quite sure where they got the source on this or whatnot, or if they vetted it at all, but so far both TSM and Kungarna are reporting that this is completely false.
Yeah, so just for everyone out there, you got to be very careful. Fake news is everywhere, even in the Overwatch scene, right? So, they're saying that TSM has picked up Kungarna, which would have been pretty big news. And maybe there's some truth to this. We'll see in the coming weeks and months, I'm sure. But it's just kind of funny to see. One of the more respected news sources, talking about, it's a pretty big deal, right? TSM's going to get, pretty much the last, free agent, strong team in NA, and then both TSM and Kungarna come out and say, completely false report. So it's something to keep in mind.
And it's one of those things that's it's definitely believable. TSM is a really big organization. They've been around for quite a while. They've been in Overwatch previously. They kind of had some bad luck with that, with some of the players with the cheating allegations and whatnot. And Kungarna, again, a very strong team, one of the last teams. So if TSM was going to get back into it, it would be a perfect match, I think. But we'll have to see what's going to happen with that. But as of now, both teams are denying that. So we'll have to keep you posted on what happens with that. But I think that's going to do it all for this show. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, again, thanks for listening. Just a heads up, next week we won't be recording a show because it'll be Christmas. We do usually record Sunday evenings, so we'll be celebrating that. But we'll definitely try our hardest to get a show out as soon as we possibly can. After that, everyone hopefully has some time to spend with their family and catch up on sleep and rest and all the such. But again, thank you so much for listening. And all those who have actually reached out and contacted us, you could contact us email aheroeswelcomepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @2moonstudios, and those are also going to be in the description or link, show notes, however you're listening to this. This show is brought to you by 2 Moon Studios. Again, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your Christmas, and we'll see you next time.
And Merry Christmas. See you next time.